some of you may not know who we are because we don't have a for discussion section. We are going to give you a lecture today on GamerGate, which is something very pertinent and current in game culture right now. I know this is a really emotionally charged topic on both sides of the argument. We're trying to keep this as professional as possible. I know, how many of you are familiar with GamerGate / what is going on? Not a ton of you. We have a history section, so it's fine. But yeah, we're going to open this up at the end for a discussion between the class. So keep any thoughts you have wrapped up if you want to make notes while we're talking or whatever. And then we will open it up to you guys at the end. So thank you.
Okay. Working?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to start out with some definitions just to get the conversation going. Something that's going to come up is doxing. Doxing, or docs, which is short for documents, originated in the mid-90s. It was originally meant the release of information related to pirated software, but it swiftly evolved into a way of retaliation online. So the current definition is releasing personal information, and it's technically legal as long as the information obtained was publicly available already. And harassment. This is the long legal definition that I pulled from the web. Importantly, it is the act of systematic and or continued unwanted and annoying actions of one party or a group, including threats and demands. The purposes may vary, including racial prejudice, personal malice, an attempt to force someone to quit a job or grant sexual favors, applying illegal pressure to collect a bill, or merely gain sadistic pleasure in making someone anxious or fearful. Next, I'd like to talk about what a gamer is. According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, it is a person who plays games, especially video or computer games. There have been a lot of articles recently kind of decreeing the death of the gamer. They're referring to research that has shown that gamers are a much more diverse population than people originally thought. Gaming is currently a culture that is in flux, and it's kind of leading people to question what does it mean to be a gamer, and there are lots of articles from various places.
We'll be sending this out to you guys. It'll be available on the website so you can access it.
Yeah, lots of links. So gamer is identity. Who counts as a gamer? So researchers who have been publishing these articles say that anyone who plays a game counts as a gamer. People who culturally identify as a gamer may argue that point. But who is actually allowed to make this distinction? Is it each individual who identifies themselves as a gamer? Can the gamer community as a whole decide whether or not someone is allowed to be a gamer or not? That is kind of a big question. So, some historical context. In 1991, Game Informer, the magazine, begins. This, incidentally, is owned by GameStop. More recently, lots of players have been going online with Let's Plays on YouTube and streaming on Twitch. These are often, the more famous ones are often supported by various video game companies. 2012, there was a big stink over unethical sponsorship and coverage of game journalism. So, in terms of ethics in game journalism, it is not a new thing. There have been lots of concerns about professionalism, sponsorship, and creating a standard ethical code across game journalism. So I want to talk quickly about what it means to be ethical. Ethics comes from ethos in Greek, which means character. Morals comes from mores, or customs. So ethics is essentially analysis, evaluation, and promotion of correct conduct and or good character according to the best available standards. So ethics is not an issue just in games journalism, but you can look at it as any product review related journalism. Product reviews often start with a free product for the reviewer. So this includes books, movies, other products you can think of. And what is a journalist supposed to do about this? They perhaps shouldn't accept gifts, but they also want to be able to review a product without being impeded. It is not currently a standard practice among any journalists to disclose when a product was received for free that they are reviewing. Okay. So, kind of to lead up to current events, this past summer, Zoe Quinn, who developed a game called Depression Quest, her ex-boyfriend accused her of sleeping with game journalists for publicity on her game, and this game is available on Steam for $0.00. And we could not find any articles that had ever actually been written about this game. So the conspiracy was born, and within a few months, they changed their title to GamerGate. The goal of GamerGate is more ethical practices in game journalism. So why is this relevant now?
Okay, so restating. GamerGate is concerned with ethics in game journalism. That is their platform. That's what they've been marketing towards people, is what they're concerned with. So how is this being achieved? And I'm going to talk to you guys about a few things that have happened under the header of GamerGate that are apparently supposed to be helping push this movement forward. Doxing. Kate already gave you guys a definition and where doxing came from. When we talk about it going forward, it means to search for and publish private or identifying information about a particular individual on the internet, typically with malicious intent. And a lot of the cases about doxing and GamerGate have also been accompanied with death threats. So first we have Zoe Quinn. She was sort of the root of where this movement kind of initiated from. She's not really the focus anymore, but her information was doxed and released. So this is like a super blurry screenshot. Basically, her business email account was hacked. Information was put out on Twitter. People were emailing people pretending to be her. Phil Fish came out on Twitter. He's the developer of Fez, which some of you guys may be familiar with. He came out on Twitter in support of Zoe Quinn, saying that people who are getting this information and publishing this information and harassing this woman are totally unethical. This is not something that we should be doing. He proceeded to get doxxed. His passwords, address, social security information, bank information, the passwords to his personal company's website, and financial information about his company was all collected into a beautiful little zip file and put on the internet for people to download for free. He then came out and said, congratulations, Fez 2 is being canceled, I'm closing my company, and I'm taking my internet presence away. So we have so far succeeded in getting a game developer to leave. Anita Sarkeesian then gets targeted. She was sent death threats with her home address and her parents' address on Twitter. Some of these tweets are really graphic, but I thought it was important to preserve what was actually said to these people so that you guys could see them. She then was scheduled to give a talk at Utah State University. The school was sent a massacre threat. They threatened it to be comparable to the biggest school shooting that had ever happened because feminists had ruined this guy's life. And if Anita was allowed to talk, he was just going to shoot up everybody in his way. So don't let her come. She was planning on going anyway, right up until, because of Utah's gun control laws, they weren't allowed to scan people for firearms before entering the facility. So basically, they had no way to prevent this guy from carrying out whatever he planned to do. And that was ultimately what led to her canceling the talk. Brianna Wu was then targeted. Her and her husband's home address was published on Twitter. She was sent death threats. And finally, Felicia Day came out saying, you know, I have been quiet about GamerGate, but I really think it's important for us to be talking about this, and I just want people to know I'm not supportive of it. Immediately in the comments of her blog, her address and personal email was listed. GamerGate with an 8 at the end. It's thought to be a reference to the movement's title. So on the flip side, these are some people who have spoken out about GamerGate and not been doxxed. So Patton Oswalt, who's a comedian, Seth Rogen, actor, Joss Whedon, producer and director, Tim Schafer, who's the game designer and the founder of Double Fine, and Chris Kluwe, who's a former member of the Minnesota Vikings. So why have these people not been targeted, and the people who are targeted are? Some general identifying factors of the people who have been doxxed are that they are overall women or people who support women. They're mostly game developers, Sans Anita Sarkeesian and Felicia Day. They identify as feminists. Really quick, we're going to take a poll. How many of you believe that people should be treated equally regardless of their race, gender, or sexual orientation? Raise your hand. Congratulations. By definition, you are a feminist. So, yay! And overall, people who are questioning the status quo. This is, there's sort of the stereotype that gaming is a boys' club. The ESA releases demographic information about the game community every year. This year, 48% of people who play games are women. That does include things like Android games, that does include things like Facebook games, but we could really get into a huge semantic debate about what it means to be a true gamer or a fake gamer, because that's apparently a thing. So these are just things we want you to be thinking about as we're going through this. These are the people who are being targeted and being doxxed. Another thing that's happened recently is that a lot of advertisers have pulled their ads from game journalism websites. So these are just a few that have happened. The biggest one was really Intel pulling their ads from Gama Sutra after Lee Alexander's article on the death of the gamer. GamerGaters were contacting these companies and saying, hey, we don't support the content that these journals are publishing. They're not ethically covering games. They're not taking both sides into account. And so Intel said, all right, we're out. And this kind of just started an avalanche effect. The one thing that's sort of weird about this is that some sites that have been targeted aren't actually game journalism sites. One of the biggest targets has been Gawker, which, maybe covers games if it's related to some other social media thing, but they have been unfavorably covering GamerGate and have thus been a target. So that really has nothing to do with ethics in game journalism. So that brings us to the question of what is GamerGate? These are the things that have sort of happened that have been in the media's attention. It doesn't really have a whole lot to do with ethics in journalism. No journalists have been targeted directly. It's all been indie developers and game critics. Obviously, this is not representative of the whole movement. As with any extreme group, there's always the few, the vocal minority, who are going to be super crazy and loud about it. There are a lot of people in GamerGate who are concerned with journalism ethics. They're concerned with the people who are getting death threats and being harassed. They're concerned with the way the gamers are being portrayed in the media, because it's not super favorably right now. But given the way the media is covering GamerGate, and given the events that have transpired under the title of GamerGate, given the lack of leadership or organization within GamerGate, is there really a way for these people to get their point across without it being lumped in with all of these other acts that people are saying, oh, it's a hate group, oh, it's about harassment, oh, it's about misogyny. We'll get your guys' opinion towards the end. So the Society of Professional Journalism has these 4 tenets for performing ethical journal practices. And I'm going to take these 4 practices and apply it to the things that have been happening within GamerGate. The first is seek truth and report it. They have been bringing light to a lot of things about relationships between reviewers and developers or friendships within the industry and things like that, which is, I think, good to acknowledge, but then at the same time, this all originated on a false claim about a developer sleeping for free publicity. So that's sort of unclear right now. Minimize harm, that one's not really happening right now, considering a lot of the public attention about what's been going on under GamerGate has been harassment of women and publishing people's private information online. Act independently. Both GamerGate and anti-GamerGate are kind of subject to mob mentality and not actually acting as an independent person. There's no accountability within either group, so something happens, somebody gets docked, and GamerGate's gonna be like, well, that wasn't us, and anti-GamerGate's like, well, it wasn't us, and that's basically the whole discussion. And so people will be like, no, it's not my fault, so you can't pin this on me. So this is also not happening. Be accountable and transparent. Again, this is sort of impossible. People are making throwaway Twitter accounts. People are talking on 4chan where there's not really a way to trace posts back to people. There's no way to tell who is doing what within this organization and where the bad seeds are and how to get them out. So again, not really happening. So how can a group that's operating under unethical means get ethical change from a group? And is that even possible? So there's been some discussion within GamerGate about the focus of game journalism changing to talk more about feminist agenda, to talk more about gender issues in general. And so there's been some studies that have kind of looked at this and what is game journalism about now? So Morgan Ramsey performed a text analysis, the link is there in the bottom if you guys are interested in this, about what kinds of terms were showing up in game articles within the last year. So there was 130,524 articles downloaded from 23 different outlets, and this includes like Kotaku and Polygon and Rock Paper Shotgun. 0.41% of these articles had the key terms feminism, feminist, sexism, sexist, misogyny, or misogynist in them. So less than 0.5% of the articles are actually talking about these issues within the last year when this has kind of blown up a little bit. By comparison, PlayStation 4 and an iteration of that was mentioned 17.8%. Free-to-play was mentioned 5.61%. Call of Duty about 4%, and realism and immersion about 3.5%. Also, Peter Molyneux was pretty close to the feminist issue, so he was also mentioned 5%. So what is game journalism about now? Mostly games. There's some discussion of feminist issues, but really not a lot. 99.5% of the articles don't have any of this information in them, so it is really about games. One of the more popular critiques that has been coming up recently was Polygon's Bayonetta 2 review. This is a collection of different reviews from a bunch of different websites. Obviously, super high praise for this game, 10s, 5 out of 5. And then Polygon gave it a 7.5. Quote, it's good, but I'm offended. So, basically their review was saying, you know, Bayonetta's gameplay is great, the story is great, but Bayonetta's character is sort of weirdly sexualized. I think maybe this is something that we should bring up. The response to this was Operation Bayonetta 2. Basically, they wanted people to register their game with Club Nintendo and say, hey, Nintendo, Polygon gave you a terrible review, so we think you should not give them games to review anymore because we hate them now and boycott them. We'll see how that goes for them. I wanted to give you a part of the review from Polygon. This was like their wrap-up. So the parts that really focus on the sexualization. Bayonetta 2's blatant over-sexualization puts a big dent in an otherwise great game. Cheap shot of TNA, the special weapon I had picked up became a literal stripper pole for Bayonetta to dance on because, well, because I guess. And then over-sexualization. So these are the things they brought up. Obviously, it's gotten a lot of praise from other places. So one of the things I want you guys to think about is why is it a problem that we are bringing this up? We have the Bechdel test for movies to determine about like sexist themes in movies and things like that. Why can we not bring up sexism in gaming or sexist portrayal of female characters or male characters in game reviews? One of the things you guys brought up as something you want to see more of in class is games as art. And as art, we should be able to critique them and critique the social commentary we're making on games, or on society. So is this really a negative thing? Something to